Adelaide Sustainable Building Network acknowledges the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains as the traditional custodians of the land we live on and Tandanya, where our work is most often undertaken. We pay respect to elders past, present and emerging of all Aboriginal nations. As professionals in the built environment, I am hopeful we can use our work practices to look after country in the same way country looks after us. And Nina Mani, everyone.
Aye. Thank you all for joining. Yeah, very excited for today's presentation. We have Megan Schartner and Ellen Liebelt from the City of Adelaide, who are going to be talking to us today about the Sustainability Incentive Scheme by the City of Adelaide, which offers cashback for residents, businesses and groups to make sustainable practices and technologies more accessible and affordable. Very, very excited to welcome Megan and Ellen to share their screen and present to us what City of Adelaide are up to.
Thank you for the opportunity to present today. We're going to talk about our sustainability initiatives. We've got a few different programs, which now also include adaptive reuse of existing building stock into housing. So today we're here to talk about our sustainability programs that we've got for the community and how they link into our strategic plans. So at a strategic plan level, the council has a priority around our environment and having a resilient, protected and sustainable city. That includes actions related to adaptive reuse and also reducing emissions. We also have our integrated climate strategy, which includes a whole lot of goals and priorities, many of which, the ones that are highlighted in yellow, require community action, not just council action. So we're looking to work with our community to make a difference and achieve our goals. So as part of our climate action, we undertake a community emissions inventory every 2 years. We do the assessment, so we did it last year. We've seen that our emissions are going down. However, there's a few areas where we need to focus in on to get them down even further. So we're looking at trying to reduce gas even further as the electricity system in South Australia is becoming greener, and also reducing our transport emissions and our waste emissions are a few of our target areas. We have a lot of different programs that we run for the community that target all of these areas. I'm not going to go into detail of every single one, but today we're going to focus in on our adaptive reuse city housing initiative and our sustainability incentive scheme. So I'll just pass over to Ellen to talk about the adaptive reuse.
Thanks, Megan. Archie, the Adaptive Reuse City Housing Initiative, has been established by the City of Adelaide in partnership with the State Government of South Australia. And the aim of Archie is to activate vacant building stock in the city and unlock dwelling potential in our underutilised buildings and to provide additional mode of housing supply. We have a strategic target at the City of Adelaide to increase the number of people living in the city by up to 50,000 people by 2036. So that's still requiring delivery of around 1,000 dwellings per year in that time frame. And to achieve sustainable growth that caters to a range of needs and demographics, we know that we need diversity in housing options, and we also need really good neighbourhood design. We also want to protect and elevate our heritage places and maintain the character that we value in our city, and also to create a sustainable city. Adaptive reuse has been recognised as an important strategy to support this purpose. And the concept is now represented in a suite of council strategies, including our strategic plan, our housing strategy, our heritage strategy, our integrated climate strategy, and also our city plan, which is our spatial plan for sustainable growth and development in the city. We have a very bold target of 50 adaptive reuse dwellings being delivered each year, and we're also championing the establishment of adaptive reuse, and this is through our Adaptive Reuse City Housing Initiative, which was first established in October 2023. And this was following the Capital City Committee Adaptive Reuse Forum, which some people today might have attended. And from there, a 2-year project was established, and that involved the engagement of a project lead, project work and consultancies to unpack the key challenges and opportunities around adaptive reuse, and also establishing the Archie incentive scheme, which provides funding support for residential adaptive reuse projects. Our initial focus has been on shop top scale adaptive reuse projects, so buildings up to 4 stories tall. But we're now just in the final throes of council's budget decision making and looking to progress Archie out of its proof of concept stage into a 3-year program that also looks at targeting the tall office to resi conversions. I think, this audience is well educated in the value of adaptive reuse from a sustainability perspective. But as we know, reusing existing building structures and materials significantly reduces embodied carbon, avoids and limits demolition and waste, and also preserves our existing building assets. And also it's really important in the context of ESG reporting. Adaptive reuse is a great way to support environmental goals through carbon savings, social impacts, and also governance through transparent reporting on emissions. Really, adaptive reuse is a really practical path to lower Scope 3 emissions and also meet investor expectations. So through Archie's work, as I said, we had a series of key tasks to support moving adaptive reuse ahead. And one of these tasks was preparing how-to guides and delivery pathways to clarify and simplify the process of adaptive reuse for building owners. So we collaborated with Phillips Pilkington Architects, led by Tom Hamper, on this work, and had technical input from RLB, Trento Fuller as well, BuildServe on accessibility, D Squared on ESD, and Resonate as well. And we're just in the process of finalising some complementary fact sheets as well, which further unpack some of the key issues around accessibility, cost, light and ventilation access, acoustics, seismic and energy efficiency. So they'll be released in the coming weeks. And this material now is located on our Archie webpage, where you can also register interest in the Archie incentive scheme. The Archie incentive scheme, early on it was recognised that cost is a key barrier to delivering adaptive reuse projects. And feedback has been that the consultant costs associated with getting that early expert advice in the process can be a barrier and problematic with projects progressing through the development approval process. So in partnership with the state government, we established the Archie incentive scheme. So that was first launched in July 2024. So we're almost 12 months in. So the scheme offers part funding towards feasibility assessment, professional advice and documentation for the development approvals process, and also part funding towards construction works. So things like, new kitchens, bathrooms, glazing, doors, all of those things for the conversion work. We're pretty flexible in terms of what that work encompasses. And Council also had a good look at their other incentive schemes that they have available and where there'd be opportunities to amend these to prioritise residential adaptive reuse projects to further support building owners. So that includes our Heritage Incentive Scheme, our Noise Management Incentive Scheme, and also our incentives for sustainability. And we've also recently amended our Archie incentive scheme to open up opportunities for a broader range of projects. So initially the scheme was limited to buildings up to 4 stories in height, and we weren't funding heritage listed buildings. But the current scheme now has been opened up to all building types. So we can target those taller office to residential conversions, and we can also co-fund heritage adaptive reuse projects with our heritage incentive scheme, and still also target the sort of shop top development as well, which was the initial focus. So I think Megan's going to talk now about our incentives for sustainability.
Yeah. Thank you, Ellen. So our sustainability incentive scheme has been around since 2015. It started off just as a solar scheme, and then it's expanded from there. So the incentive scheme offers cashback to residents, businesses, and not-for-profit groups to make sustainable practices and technologies more accessible and affordable. Since 2015, we've invested over $1.9 million into the incentives program through rebates and approved over 900 applications. So these incentives help with the costs of properties, increase the value of the properties, and also support our mission as a council and a community to cut our carbon emissions and create a circular economy. So I've listed here all the different incentives we've currently got available this financial year. We've broken them down into 5 key categories, and then there's one incentive which kind of combines all the different incentives together. So we've got our smart and green energy incentives, which is where we kind of started with the scheme. We started with the solar, then we added energy storage, and then over the years we've added EV chargers, appliance electrification, and switchboard upgrades. Switchboard upgrades was only added this financial year, and that's to support electrification or solar installations. We have our active transport incentives, which were added in the end of last financial year, and that's for e-bikes, cargo bikes, and bike racks. And then we've got our resource recovery incentives, which are only available to businesses and not-for-profits at the moment. They're our commercial green waste diversion, so our dehydrators, food organics collection services, reusable delivery takeaway containers, and indoor sorting bins connected to a hard waste collection to make space for the equivalent outdoor bins to be collected. The newer incentives that were added this financial year were our climate ready incentives, so our thermal efficient windows and doors, our shading devices, and our insulation. We've combined one of our older incentives, rainwater tanks, into that category as well this year. And then we've got our greening incentives, which is for living buildings, so our green walls and green roofs, and also a smaller incentive for people who are getting tube stock, native plants, and some trees for their properties. The incentive that combines them all together, which is currently available for our multi-storey strata properties, and in the new financial year will also be available for our ARCI properties, is for a feasibility study and then implementation. So it's really 2 incentives for whole of property implementation of any of the other categories of incentives that we've got. So if anyone in a multi-storey strata property, whether it's commercial or residential, or in an ARCI related property, wanted to do, say, appliance electrification and solar, or appliance electrification and insulation, they could obtain extra funding from us through this Climate Smart Buildings incentive. So we looked at how our incentives have been going over the time that we've been running them, and we can see here that most of the incentives to date have been in that smart and green energy category, and that's because we started with the solar and then added extra incentives over the time. And obviously greening and climate ready are new this year, so they're quite low. We have actually got rid of the measure and learn category this year. So that's why I didn't mention it earlier, but it's in here. That was things like performance ratings and energy assessments for households. So we've recently undertook an assessment to measure the environmental impact of all the projects that we've done to date. And it's shown us that we have reduced emissions, the equivalent to 2,310 households worth of emissions each year as a result of the projects that we've delivered so far, and equivalent electricity and gas consumption reduction as well for households, as shown on the screen. And then looking in just this last financial year, as I said, we've changed our incentives up this year. We got rid of our measure and learn category, and we've added in the climate smart the climate ready and the greening categories. We have delivered over 120 assessments this year, and there's been a big increase in the uptake of appliance electrification and also strong interest in those newer climate-ready incentives that we have available. And this is just our environmental outcomes for this financial year. So in this year alone, we've reduced our emissions by the equivalent of just over 292 households worth of emissions per year, and reduced waste to landfill the equivalent of 8.6 small businesses. We're currently reviewing what will be in the incentive scheme for 25-26. There's not going to be any major changes. However, we're proposing that we, as I said earlier, widen that climate smart buildings incentive to allow it to better align with the ARCI program. And we're also going to make a few other minor adjustments to align it with new federal and state government incentives that have been coming in. So the federal energy battery storage incentive and a couple of other things that we're aware of. I'm going to pass over to Ellen again now to do a couple of case studies. I think the first one is a video though, so I might let that play.
Thanks,
Ellen
Megan. So as I said earlier, the Archie Incentive Scheme was established around almost 12 months ago now, and we're starting to see our first projects come through the system, which is really exciting. Sturt Street, which is the video now, is the first project that's been completed. So it was the conversion of 3 ground floor offices into studio apartments. This building owner, she was really struggling to know what to do with the office spaces on the ground floor after her tenants finished up their leases. And there was also, recognising there's a huge amount of competition for commercial space in that part of the city. And so they proceeded with a DA to do a resi conversion, and then through Archie funding, we helped with this project move through the construction phase. This project in Melbourne Street, this one was a pre-Archie project, but was a really good example of a building owner re-establishing residential land use. He purchased this building and at the time they declassified the first floor, so it wasn't actually able to be occupied, but went through the process of reinstating an apartment upstairs and creating a shop top, and then doing the acoustic separation and fire separation works to enable the bar to keep running downstairs and for the first floor to be used for an apartment. This project in Gillies Street involves converting the top floor of a 1980s office building into an apartment. And this building owner is now extending the home into the ground floor space as well to create 2 independent living areas. So this project received funding towards their DA costs. And it's also a really great example of how an office building can become a functional family home. These guys also even have a Labrador, so it accommodates a puppy as well. This project in Saltram Place is in the process at the moment, but this one's looking at converting a former warehouse space into 3 student studios really, but they're targeting for student accommodation. It's quite close to Goodger Street and the markets. So it's a really good example of how we can use our really fine grain laneway buildings and repurposing them into homes. This project in Goodger Street is an example of how we can support through Archie reinstating a residential land use in a property. So this symmetrical cottage was converted into an office back in the 1980s, and then we've supported the building owner here converting it back into a home. So we've really recognised that re-establishing residential land uses in houses that have been converted into offices at some point in their life is a great way to create family homes in the city because they have all of the characteristics of a family home, some private outdoor space outside, potentially car parking and things like that, which are really it's been identified as being really important to people wanting to move into the city with their family unit. This one is another example of reinstating a residential land use. This is a state heritage place in North Terrace that the building owners purchased. It was used as a dental surgery for many, many years, I think 40 odd years of being a dentist, and they're now returning this building back into a family home. This is a good example as well of getting really good consultant team involved, getting state heritage involved early, and having great heritage consultants on board as well to help ease the pathway through the planning process. So yeah, starting to see some really interesting and diverse projects coming through the program, and also looking forward to seeing some of the bigger scale projects as well through the next iteration of the scheme.
And we just have one sustainability incentive scheme case study to share as well. This is a local resident who has accessed the incentive scheme several times over the last few years to fully electrify their home. So I'm just going to play the video for you.
Of Adelaide, and we've been fortunate to be able to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels and change over the way our house works by getting rid of gas, by putting in a heat pump and changing over our cooktop. We've been able to put in solar and a battery to harvest our own power. We've put in LED lights and use a lot of information from the City of Adelaide to help manage our demand, and that's how we mind our business. We've been doing quite a lot of work on the house, doing quite a few renovations and things like that. So as part of that, we've been looking to reduce our energy requirements and things like that, and also make the place really livable. And so the Adelaide City Council has really helped us, first of all with information, but secondly with really good grants to help us achieve things that normally we wouldn't have been able to afford. It's really important to us living in the City of Adelaide that it's a good environment and it's improving. And it's really important that for everybody that uses the City of Adelaide that it's a healthy experience. We've just been really pleased to be able to push things over into renewables. So it's been good for us. We feel that it's healthier for us. It's been fantastic for the bottom line for our hip pocket as well. Since we've put in the battery and the solar, effectively we really haven't paid for electricity because we've reduced our demand at the same time. And that's how we mind our business.
So that was one of our residential case studies. We do have some business ones as well. I wasn't planning to share them today, but I can say that some of our residential commercial kitchens, who have converted to induction cooktops and gone all electric, have found that as well as cost savings, they've had health and safety improvements, less burns in the kitchen and reduced heat in the kitchen as well. So they're some of the benefits that those audiences see as well. If you'd like any further information on either of the schemes we've talked about today, we've provided our email addresses on the page now, and there's also links to our website.
Wonderful. No, thank you very much, Megan and Ellen. Really appreciate you presenting those great initiatives. Yeah, thrown to the floor. Is anyone keen to ask any questions to the team? Anything stand out that you've seen today?
So you guys presented a couple of smaller resi projects. I'm just wondering, now that the grants have been scaled up, who are, I guess, the targeted audience? Are you looking at strata groups or developers or
Owner occupiers?
Existing owner occupiers?
Willing to consider adapting their property into into homes. So the focus of the program is focused on housing delivery, but currently, the cohort's generally been just building owners, not developers so much. But of course, have had great conversations with the development industry as well. So I feel quite confident that moving forward, and the amount of energy and dialogue that's happening now in terms of, adapting their building and adaptive reuse being more at the forefront, I guess, in their thinking of what to do with building stock is there, that it's sort of we're at the beginning of a real, I guess, a change in how people are thinking about their building stock and assets and making them work as hard for them as they can, particularly as well with we're in a housing crisis, and the feedback of the proponents that have done their projects and done the resi conversions is that it's a ready market of rental accommodation as well. So it makes sense for them financially as well, which I think is a really important part of the story, is that it's not just the environmental credentials and the social benefits, but it's actually has worked for them economically as well, which is really positive to hear as well.
And yeah, with the sustainability incentive scheme, we, as I said earlier, we target residential, business and not-for-profits. With the larger incentives that we've added, the initial focus was to try and get those strata groups participating, but we're expanding it to incorporate the ARCI participants as well.
We really just want to bundle everything together and maximise the benefit that we can offer from the City of Adelaide. And once packaged together, it's quite a generous offer. So we're doing our best to make that as easy as possible as well for applicants, sort of a bit of a one-stop shop for your adaptive reuse project. We'll bundle together all of the incentives that are available.
Sounds like a great approach.
Both for Megan and Ellen, are you noticing any interest from other local government councils with either the sustainability or adaptive reuse programs?
Definitely for the sustainability scheme. We get councils reaching out to us to ask questions about our scheme and how it works. So we've supported a lot of other councils with setting up their own schemes. And we also get a lot of residents from other councils who haven't quite read the terms and conditions correctly applying for our scheme. So we direct them back to their own local councils to ask what they have available.
Thank you.
And Les, definitely had some really good conversations with other city councils, and also more of the smaller cities as well, where there's sort of a scale relationship to the City of Adelaide. It's really good. Archie and this work's also been recognised by some different research groups as well. RMIT are looking at the program at the moment in terms of their research into the role of local government in housing and housing delivery, and different strategies. So that's really good that that's been picked up as well. So we've also got the benefit of our Lord Mayor meeting with other capital city Lord Mayors regularly, and adaptive reuse is high on their agenda as well. So I think there's definitely a general consensus that adaptive reuse is really important for all cities, for addressing commercial vacancy and housing and heritage and all of the benefits that come with reusing our existing building stock. So really positive. Yeah, it'll be great to see it rolled out more broadly. And I think particularly the incentives are key to that story as well, and to be able to practically support building owners through sort of case management, which is what we're doing through Archie as well, like providing it's me, but a dedicated case manager that is the one point of contact for building owners, and to help them navigate the pathway through the adaptive reuse process and the DA process, and to get them all of the incentives that are available as well. So I think, case management, incentives, and then the education piece are all really important parts of the puzzle.
Excellent. Thank you.
What's the biggest challenge someone faces when they're thinking about a shop top sort of conversion?
That's a good question. And it all depends on the number of dwellings, the existing building. No two adaptive reuse projects are the same, unfortunately, so it makes it tricky to regularise solutions. But I guess the key ones are fire and life safety, like they're the number one, that's the number one priority and sort of the number one issue that needs to be overcome, which can be through some smart fire systems. But other things in terms of challenges, ensuring you've got good access to light and ventilation. So, you know, what are the attributes of your building to make sure that you're getting light, good light and air, and maintaining good amenity. Acoustics is another one that comes up that again that can be managed, and that's the benefit of having our noise management incentive scheme as well, that we can help with acoustic upgrades as well, which is really good. And also, I guess with shop tops, typically they don't come with car parking. So again, it's around what a resident is or a future tenant's willing to, I'd hate to say sacrifice, but you know, this reliance on cars and things like that. So I guess from a tenancy perspective, the lack of car parking can be challenging. But we have the benefit with the planning system that you can do the performance assessment. So things like private open space and balconies, like it might not have a balcony, but our planners can do a performance assessment and have a more balanced, I guess, view of whether a project's meeting the sort of code and the intent for the code and things like that. So there is flexibility in there, but also, yeah, some technical challenges as well in terms of maintaining amenity and life safety are like the critical things that we need to ensure.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
guess that maybe aligns with like the fact that when you're reducing all the other energy consumption items, transport grows because that doesn't really change. It only really gets worse. And I suppose like this kind of maybe sort of tackles that problem a little bit as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the one that did the dentist conversion,
Yeah.
did they reuse the dentist chair or did they get
It's gone. There's no sign of the dentist chair anymore.
What a shame.
Maybe the demo guys have got it in their workshop or something, potentially.
It's a nice day bed.
Comfortable. I don't know if anyone hates going to the dentist, but that's one thing they got going for them, right? They've got a comfortable chair.
Yeah, maybe not 40 years ago though.
And good flavour for the transport emissions piece as well. So I know there's a little bit of work going on in the city regarding integrated transport as well, which is another great initiative. And I see David nodding as well. I know from LinkedIn that you're another proud owner of the folding bike, the Brompton. So we've got two. And also on the cross-pollination piece, I think that's a really great thing that you know, obviously is a great opportunity for us.
I think knowledge sharing is key to this project and its success. I'd love to see it introduced into other cities. Be fantastic.
Is there any research or case studies that's been done that suggests that residential is more or profitable or gets a better outcome from a renting or sales point of view when you're comparing it to commercial spaces?
That's not, I mean, we have been looking at feasibility, and next, if we can get our budget through, which is looking promising, part of that work will be looking at feasibility of adaptive reuse projects, and that will be, I think, part of that study is, okay, you know, what's the comparison to, you know, doing a retrofit project as well, because I think that's really important. That we talk about all of the opportunities, because there's huge amounts of benefits in just retrofit office to office as well. So we would certainly encourage that and as well, in terms of activating commercial space as well. So so that will be part of that that piece of the puzzle as well. But we've, you know, all of I guess it all depends on the building owner's asset group and what their motivations are. Also managing residential versus commercial tenants and all of those things. So there's a lot to consider in terms of sort of rates of return. But I guess the feedback that we've had from our proponents has been that the residentials worked well for them because it's the ready income and there's less competition and a ready market for housing, which has been, it's been easy for them to develop and then get their return immediately. So it already starts paying for itself really quickly because you've got a huge amount of people that have in need of a home. So yeah, I guess that's not really the answer, but I'm not sure of any academic research, but I'll add that to my research list. Yeah, that's a really good
That would be
point.
interesting and a really good selling point, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess a bit of a flavour, the GBCA, Green Building Council, a couple of months back, presented some interesting figures regarding commercial office space tenancy and vacancies. And Adelaide actually is quite a high performer, especially in the sort of high-end office spaces, in terms of, obviously there's not a great deal of vacancy. And I guess, yeah, as you say, Ellen, the competition there kind of, pushes a lot of people to go for those sort of, big glossy A grade spaces, whereas obviously, yeah, there's still a hell of a lot of people out there looking for homes. So
yeah. All right, well, with that, if there's no further questions, I think we'll call it a day. And thank you very much, Megan and Ellen, for joining us and presenting all these great schemes.